Hey guys, it's your boy Joe back at it again, CodingPhase.com. In this video, I want to come in and create a tutorial for anybody that's building Shopify apps with Node.js using the Shopify app CLI, especially if you're getting a 403 error, which is that you're trying to do Axios and basically maybe using Axios to do a post request or a GET request, and for whatever reason you're getting a 403 error. Basically this is probably the problem that you're having. Okay, you need a custom session storage system. Okay, I want to give a shout out to everybody who also has this problem and has been trying to figure it out online and everything. Okay, I want to say thanks to all of you guys that was going through the same problem, because it helped me out. Reading through your own issues, it made me figure out where was my issues. Okay, one thing that I want to mention is that this is not easy, right? And the documentation on Shopify, I'm being honest, is not the best when it comes to this. There's a video on YouTube from one of the guys from Shopify, and I'll be honest, they kind of went over a lot of the steps on how to do this, and it's like, this is what we need to be seeing. Like, we don't need to see like the easy stuff, right? Where you're like, hey, I'm creating a Shopify app for one store. Most people are creating apps to be able to go in and create those apps for everybody to be able to install them, not just one store. So again, if you guys want to learn Shopify development, definitely check out my website, CodingPhase.com. This is what we do. We actually teach you how to build Shopify apps to be able to sell your services on the Shopify App Store. I don't see anybody else really doing that. They're teaching you from the documentation, and the documentation is garbage. I'm sorry. I love Shopify. I really do, but the documentation when it comes to this is kind of garbage. All right. So let's just get started, right? So if you're getting a 403 error, and when you're doing Axios, again, it's most likely because, yes, the route is there, but at the same time, you don't have access to be doing that. Because remember, you have this route right here on the server.js where is basically verifying every request. Okay, if you look over here, let's say, for example, on this one, you see verify request, return header to true, right? What's happening in here is it's checking for sessions. It's checking for making sure that the person is authenticated, and you know that request is coming from the right place. If it's not coming from the right place and it's not authenticated, then yeah, you're gonna have an issue. That's why you're getting that 403 error. Now, how can we go in and fix this? First of all, if you guys look over here, they basically tell you, at least they tell you in the comment section, they're like, hey man, this should be replaced with your preferred storage strategy. Okay, so in here what we do is we create a new custom session storage, and we basically passing down a store callback, a load callback, and a delete callback to it, right? So this is basically three functions that we have to create, and we pass it down to this this area here. Now, one thing that you should do is create a new file. Don't write all of that code in the same file of the server, because it's just gonna be too crazy, too big. Just go in and put it over here in the custom sessions. By the way, on the link of the description of the description of this video, there's gonna be a link, okay? And I'm gonna have a gist with basically all of the three files that you need, right? Custom sessions.js. You're gonna have a prisma.js. This is like, you can pretty much look at this and look at how your tables is supposed to be. Okay, this is prisma.js, just in case you guys don't know. And then you have the server.js. Okay, so this is an example of my server.js. Okay, I'm thinking about creating a boilerplate for Shopify apps. If you're interested in that, leave me a comment and tell me, hey Joe, please create a starter kit for Shopify apps. Okay, so definitely put in the comment section. So going back to what I was saying, so there's three callbacks are basically functions, and we create them inside of the custom sessions.js. Now in here, what's happening is we have these functions, right? The store callbacks function is going to take in the session, so it brings in the session, and then from there we basically put it in on a payload, right? It's the same object. I just put everything into one object, right? Call it payload, and then from there we're going in and we're basically doing an upsert, right? So meaning that if for whatever reason inside of the sessions table there's not a store that matches the session ID that we're getting from the session that's coming from Shopify, then what we want to do is we want to go and create it. Okay, create it. Now if there is a session that matches that ID, we want to just update the payload. Now if you look over here on the schema of Prisma, basically the app session just takes the ID, you have the shop URL, and then you have the payload, which is a JSON file. So going back to over here, okay, so if there is a store that matches that session ID, then update the payload to the new payload that's coming in from here. Okay, then from there we're also going in and basically we're gonna return true if everything went well and basically it got updated or saved into the database. Now if there's an error, we're returning false, so it basically says, hey, nothing got stored. Okay, the next one is the load callback, and what happens in here is that we're basically getting a session ID. We're not getting a session, we're getting a session ID. Okay, this was something that was a little bit confusing at first, okay, especially because you have two different types of sessions. Okay, so again, in here you have this session ID, which is the load callback ID. Okay, passes the ID. We search inside of the app session table, find where there's a session that matches that ID. Okay, then from there we take that data. If there is no data in there, then basically we're saying, hey, it's undefined, so return undefined, and it stops the whole process. Now if everything goes good, we're going to create a new session. Okay, now this new session is going to take the data, the ID. So when we find that ID from, from that's coming in over here from the load callback, and we find that session inside of our database table, we're coming in and taking that data ID and creating a new session. Okay, from that. Then from there, the next process is to take the shop, the state, the scope, the access token, is online, expires, online access info, and the data.payload. Okay, so we're basically taking all of this that's here, okay, that's inside of the payload that's coming from the database, and then now we're basically attaching it to this new session that we have here. Session.shop, session.state, session.scope, expire, is online, access token, online access info. Okay, one of the reasons why I put in so many different console logs is to understand the process of what's happening. Okay, if I was to show you in here, we will see that basically it starts like this. Okay, the user comes in, right, and let me show you guys in action. Okay, let me go in, interrupt this. I'm gonna do npx prisma migrate reset, so it could be like a brand new database, right, with nothing being installed or nothing being added to it, and the application hasn't even been installed yet. So then now I'm gonna show you guys this. I'm gonna go to the apps, right, then in here I want to make sure that I'm running my server, Shopify no serve. Okay, give this a second. Okay, let this start up. Okay, gotta go to ngrok, gotta go through Next.js, gotta do the whole process. Y'all know this is slow. If you've been doing Shopify apps, you know damn well this is slow. Okay, now again, if you want to install it to your store, you will go in and basically click on this link, press Control, and then press enter. Now I already have it installed, so I don't got to go through that process, but you know what, I'll go through it. Why not? So let's go and delete this just to show it to you guys what happens with a brand new installation. Okay, so it goes in, everything goes fine, clicks install unlisted app. Okay, Once it installs the unlisted app, it goes through the process. Is basically authenticating everything and going through those store callback, the load callback, is going through the whole process. Okay, so then now if we look over here, let's scroll up all the way from the beginning where it started, where it says localhost 8081. That's where our server started. The first thing that happens is it goes in and looks at your session. Okay, it gets that session. Remember I told you that the store callback takes in a session, so it passes in the session. Okay, then from there the next step is we have that payload. So we take the session and we put it into the payload. So this is what we're saving into the database. Okay, then from there we come in and it says, okay, running store callback. Okay, going through that process again, then going through the process of store callback payload. Okay, going through that process again. Okay, so then now it goes through the load callback. It takes the ID that we got from the original time that it was saving it, right? It saved that information. Remember, we're loading that data from the database with that ID. And then inside of here, this is the new session that we just created, okay? It has the ID, right? We have the CP cores, this is your shop, your state, your scope, your expire. So everything is undefined till now, right? Access token undefined, online access token, online access info undefined. And then it goes back to the store callback. This is where it's weird. Now, yes, they explained it. They said that yes, in Shopify, if you look over here, some of the people from Shopify actually commented on this. Let me show you guys. Where is it? Okay. Hey, folks, thanks for raising this. This is a known issue. We're currently working on it. So we don't have an immediate solution to suggest. Like sometimes Shopify, they put things live to be like, hey, guys, we got some new tools. By the way, yes, there's a lot of bugs and there's a lot of shit that don't work, but you guys can figure it out until we come up with a better solution, right? And shout out to the guys at Shopify. I love them anyways, okay? But going back to what I was saying, for whatever reason, now remember, you have this ID here, okay? And then you have another ID, which is this one, okay? So if we look over here, and again, I'm explaining all this stuff thanks to a lot of the knowledge that's out there, guys asking questions, guys getting stuck, and now I'm breaking it down to also help out other people that might want to watch this on video. So again, you have one that is the UUID, as ID is the user session token, and then the other one is the store session token. So the token expires after 24 hours. The user token expires after 60 seconds. Okay, so this is something that, that's why we have those two different IDs. All right, this one is one session ID, and then this one is I believe the user, or maybe it's the opposite way, right? Yeah. So this one's the user session, and then this one is the store session. So then now that we have that information, right, we understand sort of like what's happening. For whatever reason, they decided to use the same callbacks and the same sessions. This makes it confusing as hell. If you're like trying to figure out behind the scenes, like what's happening step by step, right? You're like, wait, what? We had one ID and then out of nowhere we have a new ID. They're using the same thing. So you have to basically go in and save this into your database. And I'm going to show you guys in a second how the database is looking like. So again, you have now the same store callback, right? The same function that was being used to be able to create this type of session is now creating this type of session, which has all of your information, right? You have your store ID, you have your shop, your states, your scope, your expires on, your access token, your online access token, all of your information, it's here, okay? All of your information now it's here, which is crazy, okay? So then now, as you continue to go down, you see information of like the user, etc. So that's one thing that you gotta remember. And then again, it goes back to the store callback payload, and then running store callback session, etc. comes back. It's like it repeats itself multiple times to get this information. I have no idea why. I mean, I kind of do, but if I was building this authentication system, I wouldn't have done it like this. But again, Shopify is a $1 billion company, multi-billion dollar company. What do I know? I'm just a regular dude out here, like I'm just creating, using the tools that they create for us, right? And then now, one thing that I do want to mention in the server.js, you can come in, and if you look at the bottom, right? Again, we can now use this verify request, and we will be fine. We basically, any type of, verification is going to pass it because we're going to have a proper session and information that it needs. And I'll show you guys right now what I mean by that. So I click over here. I'm going to go in and do FAQ create. Okay, go through this process. Okay, so I'm going to say main menu and whatever, description, click submit. Okay. And as you can see, we're good to go. So we're basically doing a post request to this route right here of post. And basically everything is working. So we're able to save our data. We're able to send that information to the backend, and we're good to go. Another thing that I also want to mention here on the bottom, where you see here where it's a catch-all route basically. You can go in and basically check for your app session. So if for whatever reason somebody's trying to go to a certain route, right? And basically you could say check for this app session and find the first one that matches where the shop is equal to the shop. So this is from the query shop, right? The query param. And you could take that shop param, right? And basically match it to the one that you have in the database. And then if it passes, you should be good. You should say, okay, cool. If it's not null, if it's not undefined, that means it passed. So then you could go in and send the person to handle the request to the page that it's supposed to. Now, if for whatever reason it's undefined, nulled, or whatever it might be, right? Depending on how you're doing your database or however you're checking for it, right? Then basically what you want to do is redirect the user to go back into the shop authentication, right? Which is the auth authentication. So go through that whole process again to authenticate the app. Okay, so there we go. Ta-da! Hopefully this is helpful for some of you guys. For me, like, I had to go very deep and to understand every piece of Shopify. Okay, this is why we do at CodingPhase.com. One of the things that I could say is, if you want to learn about Shopify development, if you want to build Shopify apps to be able to sell your products and your services on the Shopify store, I'll be honest, like, no one else is teaching Shopify development like I am. Every single person that's out here is teaching Shopify development like from the documentation. You might as well just look at the documentation. If you go in and every single person that's teaching Shopify development, what they're literally doing is they're coming in, go to shopify.dev, they look at the documentation that's in here, getting started, create an app, and then basically following exactly what's in here. Okay, you guys can do that for free. Okay, now to take it up a notch and to be able to build like real applications, like how it's done in the real world, then what I would say is come to CodingPhase.com. We actually teach you the whole process, and you show you guys how to build an application from zero all the way to the end, to the process of actually launching it. Okay, and we give you tips on how to actually get more people to sign up to your apps and help you out to succeed. Okay, no one else does this. All right, come to CodingPhase.com, come try this out. Okay, I'm putting this tutorial for anybody that's out there, that's having issues getting those 403 errors, getting those those problems with the sessions. They don't understand that whole process. Again, I just basically broke it down for you, and hopefully this can help you out. Okay, come try out the website. $20 a month, $397 for the whole year, and you get access to over 80 courses at CodingPhase.com, and more courses are being added. Everything that has to do with Shopify development is what we do here. Okay, we basically specialize on Node.js, React, PHP, and Shopify. That's our bread and butter. So definitely come check it out. You can see all the career paths from front-end development, right? Back-end development, and we're talking about all the courses that you need. Like, you don't have to go anywhere else if you don't want to. Come try it out. Start with $20 and you get access to all the programming courses, and then upgrade to the year when you want to go in and go dive deeper into Shopify or any of the other career paths that might have like a fire emoji, and that tells you those are premium courses. So definitely come check it out. Anyways, man, hopefully for anybody that's watching this was useful. And for anybody that's on my YouTube channel, hey guys, come check out Shopify. Like, yes, it might look a little bit, a little difficult, but it's actually fun, right? Like right now we're building this FAQ app, which is basically frequently asked questions, where it's going to be able to create app blocks and a whole bunch of other things. All of the latest features for Shopify apps, we're basically adding it to this course. So come check it out. All right, guys, I'm going to see you guys later. Take care. See you guys in CodingPhase.com.